Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Savvy session. Today, we're going to walk through the 15 tasks you shouldn't ignore when it comes to search ads optimization. I've been through this a couple times in rehearsal and giving it internally and for a couple of partners, and I keep tweaking it because I want to make it as clear as possible. So I hope this is going to be awesome. If you have any questions whatsoever throughout the entire session, even if you're watching it afterwards, throw it in the YouTube comments, throw it on the comments on the page, throw it on the comments wherever you're watching this, because that way we can get to it and we'll answer it. We'll answer it throughout the call. We'll answer it throughout the session and also afterwards. Both me and my team will be sitting ready. So without further ado, so my name is Andrew, and I'm the founder of Savvy Revenue. We have about 40 active advertisers across Europe and the US. I would say 80% in Europe, and out of that, 80% of our spend is across the Nordics and the UK. All we do is e-commerce, meaning that everything I talk about here today is very focused on e-commerce. Many of the same aspects can also be used for lead gen, although there is some technicalities in terms of some of the things and how much time you should spend on them, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say most of what I talk about today can actually be used for both. We are heavily specialized in shopping ads and feed management. And I even get the question, do you even do search? Of course you do search. So one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about search optimization today is because I feel it's one of those things that's been just abandoned the last year. We do quite a bit of both paid audits, but also just audits for figuring out how much potential there is and starting in collaboration with us. And again and again and again and again, I see advertisers just completely forgetting about search. Especially in the US, I see many companies not running search at all. And in Europe, it's either heavily focused on DSA and a couple of few core campaigns. And it doesn't really perform that well often. And I believe most of it has to do with we just got too used to shopping just working. And then we don't put in the work to actually make the search ads work. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How do we force search ads to perform better? We're going to go through 4 key things: 80-20 rule for optimizations, optimization frequency, checklist for search optimizations, and platform versus off-platform optimizations. So the 80-20 rule: the more spend a campaign has, the more impact it will have when you're optimizing it. Way too often I see PPC specialists hello, and I am back. So when it comes to the 80-20 rule, many of the PPC specialists that I see, they will look at me and go like, okay, if we have 20 Google search campaigns, I will optimize all 20, or I'll update the ads, I'll do keyword management in all of them. And I say, why? And the reason why I say why is that when I show them this and I go, okay, hey, look at the campaign setup here. Campaign A drives $385,000 in revenue. Campaign C drives $15,000 in revenue. Where should you spend the most of your time? Everybody says campaign A, but that's not what happens in your account. And then you will jump around, optimize a little bit here and a little bit here, and try to do ads in all of the campaigns, like ad updates. It doesn't fucking matter. It's completely useless. It's completely useless. You're wasting your time. Optimize ad copy in campaign A, optimize ad copy in campaign B, and then forget campaign C. Now, what can happen is that you can group all your secondary or marginal campaigns into one big campaign type. So let's say you have 10 of the campaign C doing 15,000 revenue each. Then you have 150,000. But then you want to treat all those 15 as quote unquote one campaign when you're optimizing. Go through it all at once and not one by one by one by one. So that way you make sure you get everywhere and still using the 80-20 rule. Your time investment should be directly related to a campaign's ad spend at any given point in time. That's why when I do an audit of any account, I'll go in and I'll take a look at everything. But when I dig deep, when I have to go into and say, okay, this particular campaign, or how are people doing on ad copy? How are they doing on keyword management? I'll go into the top 3 campaigns and I'll review those. And then I'll just jump into some of the lower ones and see, is this the same issue that are on the other campaigns? If there is, I'll just make a broad assumption. If there isn't, then I'll say what I just said here. Your campaign C looks amazing, but your campaign A, where all you spend is, looks awesome, awful. Fix it. So when we got to optimization frequency, there's two things here. You can do it too often and not often enough. So in my opinion, primary campaigns, a campaign A here, should be optimized once a week within certain areas, and others once a month or bi-weekly, so to speak. But all your low spending campaigns, your campaign Cs, maybe even your campaign Bs here, should be once a month. Make sure there's enough data for you to optimize on. Don't try to tweak it. It's a little bit different if you're starting a new campaign up, but once you get into the constant optimization of a search campaign, don't try to do it too often. Once a month, once a quarter, be steady. If I talk to somebody and we go through, let's say, assets or ad extensions, which they used to be called, and they ask me, so how often should I optimize them? And I say once a quarter. They'll be like, what? Not more? Why not more? Why should I look at it weekly, monthly? La. I'm super cool. Like, when did you last do it? And then they'll look at me like, I don't remember ever doing it. I'll be like, okay, so if you do it just once a quarter, updating the extensions, figuring out what broke, what doesn't work anymore, what needs to be new, what seasonal adjustments can you make so that it sounds more seasonal, like get summer ready or biggest winter closeout of the year, etc. How can you add that to the campaigns? That's something you can do once a quarter. And it's just done. It takes a couple hours and it's done. When we look at it from an optimization frequency, then again, this session is not about how to analyze data. We'll do another one on that. But you always want to look at what is you always want to look, even if you're optimizing on a weekly basis, you don't want to just look at the data from the last week. You want to look at from the last 28 days, 4 weeks. You want to look at the last 4 to 12 weeks, and you want to look at what are the trends year over year. What was the performance last April, last May, last June, last December? Want to compare month to month so that you actually have some data to review and you have some trends to look at. The worst thing you can do is just look at the last 7 days and look at the data and then see what is good, what is bad. That's not what we're doing anymore. We used to do it with bidding, but we don't do that anymore. This is where I want to get a little bit controversial, but smart bidding took your job. Like much of what you used to do and what we used to do from a search ads perspective is just gone. All negatives, like negative keywords, like 80% of it is gone. Search term bidding and smart bidding means there's no need for adding negative keywords. It also means there's no need for adding all the keywords that are ever existed in the live world. So all the granularity we used to do is also gone. There's no value in these like tiny little micro optimizations. And the whole bidding aspect is super gone. Manual bidding should not be done anymore, especially on e-commerce. All those little bid adjustments for locations or devices or hour of day or demographics and all that stuff doesn't really work anymore. There's no need for you to do it. So all of these aspects are gone. So you need to, based on this, you need to know how to manage smart bidding. Smart bidding is now one of your employees. Smart bidding is an assistant that you have working on your account. So you need to know how to give instructions to smart bidding. You need to know how to tweak it and how to override it when need be, because it is handling a huge part of your search ads optimizations today. We're going to talk about the rest. We'll do another webinar, another session. We don't do webinars. Another session on smart bidding and budget management, and stuff like that. So when we get into the core checklist, we have ad copy, we have landing pages, we have keywords, we have ad assets or extensions, we have some minor tweaks, and then we have dynamic search ads, because from a search perspective, I always want to include that. From an ad copy perspective, responsive search ads have really just thrown a wrench to everything. But the process we have today, and it might get tweaked in the future, but this is where we've come to that seems to be working the best. I've covered all the options in a second, but you want to find all the low performing assets and remove them. Low performing assets in this sense means anything that doesn't get any impressions. So you want to keep your top 4 headlines that get the most impressions and remove everything else. And then you want to add new assets. So you want to add new assets. So if you used to say free shipping, then let's try to say summer sale now on or newest selection out. Let's try to add that and see what happens. if that can beat the other assets. Then you want to rewrite your high-performing assets. So if you're saying free shipping, can we go free shipping nationwide? Can we go $0 shipping? What are there any better ways to write this high-performing asset? Because most likely when you came up with it the first time, that's not necessarily the best way to write it. So can you write different variations of the same asset and then let them go head to head inside the responsive search ad and find out which one of these are actually performing the best? Performing the best here is CTR and impressions. And impressions, the more impressions you get, the more likelihood, the higher CTR and conversion rate it will have. We're assuming, but because Google doesn't give out the data. So when you go in and do this, you want to find all your low performing assets. This is confusing. I hate this. So what you want to do is you want to use filters. Filters is amazing for anything you do inside Google Ads. You want to use the use by filter, so you only see the assets that are used across an entire campaign. I'll show you why in a second. You want to use the headline filter and a description filter for when you only want to review headlines and descriptions. So now we're looking at, you can see up in the left corner, you can see that we're using the filter. Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Yeah, used by then 5 ads or more. Then in this ad group, we have 25 ad groups. You can see that all of these headlines and descriptions are being used by at least 25. That means that we're taking out the little we're removing the headlines that have the specific keyword in there because they're unique for every single ad group, which means that they will only be used by one ad. This allows us to update the broader headlines that we have in the ads, and we can just see those. Now, if we go one step further, then we say, okay, we're going to asset type, there's only headlines. See how we've gone from this and trying to find out what performs the best to this. All of a sudden, I just need to look at these 7 headlines and go, look at I've jumbled these around so you can't see which ones perform the best, but let's just say that these 4 down here are the lowest performing ones. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but the lowest 4 ones. We remove those and then we write new ones. This was super simple, took 2 seconds. Editor, in, do that. Compared to this. It's tough to find and it's tough to see at the campaign level. So there's 2 alternatives to this. You can use ad variants, which is basically just campaign experiments. It's not that scalable. So if you want to go in and you want to say, okay, 6-day return window, and then you want to compare that to free shipping, you can only do that one test. And for large accounts, like that's not a lot to do. But it allows you to test apples to apples, 2 specific messages up against each other, which sometimes can be really, really good. So you can know, okay, what is actually the conversion rate difference between one or the other? That also means you can start getting some more data in and not just look at, okay, which asset gets the most impressions. So I like to use it once in a while when I want to just learn, when I have a big thing I want to test, I want to learn what's the difference between free shipping and newer selection. One might, like free shipping might have awesome high CTR, but the other one actually converts the better because it attracts better or a different kind of clicks and users. The other option is to test 2 different responsive search ads. So in one, you can be focused on like heavy on promotions, and another one heavy on free shipping, and another heavy on newest selection now available or new out now or whatever. So you can test 2 or 3. The only issue is it's not guaranteed to give you any like get you even impressions like 33%, 33%, 33%. That is not guaranteed. So use it with a grain of salt when you have to. So then it comes to ad copy, and it like when I used to call this ad copy, now I call it just landing pages. So you want to try to test your landing pages alongside your ad copy. So too many people that I see are just stuck in just changing ad copy when they could try to look at, okay, where they're actually sending the traffic. I'll start with the easy ones for what I call retail websites. Those of you who are selling other people's brands and products. Think of something like Target, Walmart. In Denmark, it's like Polshop. Most of the stores in Denmark, anything that's not D2C, anything that's not their own brand. In those cases, we have like, so if you're sending it to a product, like a category, then what if you use the bestseller sorting mechanism rather than the newest, or you use the newest instead of bestseller, or featured, or show the lowest prices or highest prices? Test some of these different ones out, because for, let's say, a business, let's say a fashion company, the best-selling items are not necessarily the ones that are most interesting for people to look at right now. Maybe you want the newest. Again, if we're going into summer and we have a bunch of winter jackets that have been best-selling so far over the last 60 or 90 days, then maybe newest or featured will be the best ones that are being shown highest, or highest rated can even be. So using these sorting and filters to pretty quickly create brand new landing pages, so you can test what is the best one for people to land on. You can also test different parts of the website. So sometimes I see everybody just send traffic to a category page, but sometimes the homepage is better. Like, it sells better. It sells the product, sells the company, it sells why you should buy something here. But also sometimes you have like 1 or 2 or 3 bestsellers in a category, and maybe the product page is actually the best because it will have more in-depth information about the product. Ever wondered why shopping performs better than many search ad campaigns? This might be why. So test out different parts of the website, even though it's not necessarily a natural choice. Just test it out, see what happens. Last thing I want to talk about is custom landing pages. This is often neglected, but for direct-to-consumer brands, it's huge. You should be spending the bulk of your time, once you've optimized your search ad campaigns overall, in creating custom landing pages. We'll do a separate session on that, but that's where I just go like, this is where, like, if somebody walks into your store, what would you tell them in 30 seconds? That's usually not part of your category page. It's not saying, okay, why are these eco-friendly bikinis? Why are these amazing? No, it's just showing them. And then it's the same like every other website out there. You're not selling, you're not telling anybody why they should buy these. So people just land. Do I like that color? Do I like that style? Yes, no, run away. They can't see amazing fit. Like saving the sea, all these things, you can't see those things. You have to tell them. When it comes to testing the landing pages, I highly recommend using ad variants, like we talked about before. That means that you can just test these 2 landing pages evenly and give 50% of traffic to each, instead of having 2 ads running and there's not enough traffic going to each. If we then go to keywords, so for keywords, it's pretty simple. You want to add new keywords whenever a search term has more than X amount of clicks. Then there's a whole conversation where, okay, do we want to add it to an ad group, or do we want to create a new ad group? In my opinion, that's something we've changed. It's not something we've changed opinion on for a long, like a ton, especially now. Remember, we talked about smart bidding, reducing the need to do as much granularity as we used to have. So in my opinion, you should only create a new ad group if you write a new ad. Otherwise, just add it to the same ad group. It adds more data to the responsive search ad, which means they will perform better. My other thing I'll say, you don't need to add all the variations of a keyword. If we take an example here, so this is an example of a bunch of like variations that's been added with and without space, with singular, with plural, every single instance of like a little feature and everything in there. You don't need to add every single variation of a keyword. Only add a keyword in an ad group, or only add a keyword into an ad group if you're writing a custom ad, and only add a keyword to the existing ad group if you want insights like to impression share, quality score, anything else you want to keep track of. But otherwise, you really don't need to add them because smart bidding is bidding for it appropriately anyways. Now, this was different back in the day. Back when we used to do manual bidding, you had to add the actual keyword in order to create a different bid for it. So that's where smart bidding has taken away that need, and you just don't need to do it anymore. It's an old-fashioned best practice. Do this, not this. Do this, not this. See how much simpler this is to manage, and you can see whether or not you have the right keywords. You do. You don't need all these things. I can trust, like, there's not enough people searching for dress socks, mountaineering socks, and hunting socks. There is not. I tell you, know this for a fact. Then we go to negative keywords. They are, like we talked about in the beginning, a lot less impactful today because smart bidding covers the negative keyword aspect. So if you have some search terms underneath one keyword and this are performing poorly, then smart bidding will bid low for them. That's what negative keywords used to do. If these two are performing poorly, we would exclude them. Smart bidding is automatically, quote unquote, excluding search terms by bidding lower for them. So that's where all this comes in. And I just want to check my mic is working. Yes. It is working. Still focus in like negative keywords is still focus in new campaigns. So that's where smart bidding has no data yet. So you want to do some negatives initially, especially if it's completely wrong. In this case, you do want to add variations because broad match keywords or phrase match or exact match negative keywords are not like expanded. So all of a sudden, Nike shoes do not turn into Nike running shoes when you're excluding it. So some tips for negative keywords. Run them account wide. Don't go in campaign by campaign. Click on filters and exclude just entire account. Use filters. You have this, like I showed up here. There's this like column that's called added and excluded. You can just go in and say everything I haven't already added to the account, everything I haven't already excluded to the account, which means that you just want to see none. That's the list I want to see. Otherwise, you're seeing all the keywords you've already added, and there's no need to see that. I like to do this in the editor. Super easy now that you can get search terms there, especially for large accounts. Remember to exclude words instead of keywords. So instead of excluding smart bed, smart beds, etc., then just exclude the word smart because I don't have any smart beds. I don't sell anything smart in my store. Go away. Then you want to expand your negative. So if you've excluded air mattress, or better yet, air, then what about also excluding inflatable? All this like will just save you a bunch of money if you just do the work up front. And of course, use broad match. Like phrase again, match type doesn't work exactly the same as they do for regular keywords. So just use broad match. Like if you need to use phrase or exact, you know why. Otherwise, just use broad. Then we on the keyword side, we want to revise match types. So there's a lot of talk about broad match, etc. And I want to just simplify that whole conversation because it's not good or bad. It's just a different tool for a different situation. You want to add broad match to scale an account further with potentially lowering ROAS for a bit and be shown for completely irrelevant, clueless searches. And that's perfectly fine because you can find something you've missed. Awesome. If you want to decrease waste in your account, if you're scared about efficiency, if you haven't got a good setup already with plenty of data, don't run broad match. Wait until you get to the point where you have maxed out your phrase match and exact match, and then you add broad match. Look at it as a tool to expand an account. That's why many of the accounts that we have today have had a broad match added to it because we're at a stage where we have a lot of data. Phrase and exact is running well. Dynamic search is running well. Now we add broad to expand our reach and also to get more data into our responsive search ads. But that's another thing. But use it as a tool. Don't go into the discussion with Google. Who cares? Are we looking to expand the account? Potentially a little bit lower ROAS. If that's a goal of yours, add broad match. If not, don't. It's really that simple. I'm not going to talk about audiences. I actually removed that. Hey, no, I didn't. Awesome one. Then you'll hear me rant for a little bit. Audiences are completely overrated when it comes to search ads. There's no need to use it. So smart bidding already uses and have access to all the audiences out there. So whether or not you add it to a campaign doesn't really change anything. There's a slight caveat on converted audiences and stuff like that. That might have an impact, but overall, not really. Also, search intent is everything. If somebody's searching for a mattress and you sell mattresses, I don't care what the audience is. I want to show my ad. Google, and the reason for that is that Google is bad at audiences. Try to check Audience Manager. This is for an email software provider. Trips to Sydney, trips to Singapore has the highest index or overlap with their converted users. So this is absolutely useless to use. Domain registration might be okay, but technically they don't go after people who are just starting out new businesses. Accounting, finance jobs, irrelevant. CRM solutions is actually pretty awesome. But I don't trust any of this when I see it so bad. Affinity might be pretty cool because, and I've pitched it many a times. Look at superstore shoppers for somebody who wants some value, or if somebody is selling travel and I want to go snowbound, or if we're selling ski wear and stuff like that. But the thing is, if somebody's searching for like skiing gloves, I don't care whether they're snowbound travelers in an affinity audience. I am gonna run them anyways. Like I want to target them anyways. Like, why do I like? And that's where Google is already doing it. And I've never seen this actually work in practice. The only time that I've seen this work is when I've talked to people who run the ads for T-Mobile or run it for a large lead gen store, and they have found like that this a disease symptom paired with luxury travelers that converts really well. So they've told Google, okay, we have some campaigns that are only targeting these affinity audiences in combination with these broad searches. But from an e-commerce standpoint, I haven't seen it work that well. I haven't seen it be this like holy grail where I just grow everything in an account based on this, especially not in Europe. The US is a little bit different because it's huge, but in Europe, the size just isn't there. The size just isn't there, and I haven't seen the effect yet. Then we're going to ad extensions or ad assets. There are three primary ones you need to review on a quarterly basis. Can your site links be more specific? Are they linking wrong? Can your promotions be used more? Are there any old ones they're still showing? They shouldn't, because you can schedule them. And then the images. Are any of the dynamic images okay, or should we pick? And again, we go back to using this primary campaign review, the 80-20 rule. Do not do this for everything. Start with your high impact campaigns, and then if you have more time, go into the others. But no need to change an image for an ad group that gets 5 clicks a month. Once a quarter, do these things. Like, they're all required, you should all do it, and when you like, they should be fixed when you do something blatantly wrong, but you don't get much from optimizing them. Writing free shipping or $0 shipping in a site link probably have no effect whatsoever. You can at least see. So what you want to do is figure out if they're missing or wrong. You want to update them to be seasonal. Summer sale extensions usually work better than sale now on. And then can they be better? Review top 10 campaigns. Do you have the best ad extensions? On the miscellaneous side, we have search partners. If poor performing, remove them. Performing, keep them, but check in monthly. On the location side, if I don't like excluding locations, like maybe if you have a seasonal business, then maybe there's something you can do. There's a slight use case for some of it, but only if you're having issues. If you have external data that this state or this country never works for you, then remove it. But otherwise, don't waste your time, because I hate excluding. If you do need to exclude something, try to use a fallback campaign instead. So let's say you are running so let's say that you see Florida and it sucks. Then take Florida and all the other states that sucks and put them in a different campaign structure and just set a very low bid. Then because what happens with a fallback campaign is that you're able to see once they pick up again. And that's kind of the reason why I don't like excluding, is that you never see when things change. Then we're going to dynamic search ads, because most of us run them, and if you don't, you probably should. So there's 3 different optimizations here. So if you want to apply negative keywords and URLs, so anything that's poor performing in dynamic search ads, you want to exclude them. If you have any duplicate terms, so let's say we're having Nike running shoes in your dynamic search ads, but we also have the keyword, then you want to exclude it from your dynamic search ads campaign. If, and this is where the conversation comes in, for excluding URLs and excluding keywords, is it a keyword issue or is it a URL issue? Meaning, is it that Nike running shoes are being sent to a old product or the wrong category on your website, or is it that the search term is wrong? That's something you need to look at consistently instead of just excluding search terms willy-nilly off your dynamic search ads campaigns. So figure out whether it's the URL or the term. And again, it's also the opposite. Maybe a URL on a product is pretty good, but it's being shown for the wrong keyword. So when you're looking at it, and I was going to dynamic search ads, dynamic ad target search terms. In here, you'll get this like search term and headline and landing page, and that will give you an idea, okay, where these things being shown for. That way you can better analyze, okay, is this a keyword issue, or is it a search term issue, or is it a URL issue? When you're excluding URLs, then consider whether or not it's temporary. So on the content side, maybe on the page, on the product page, you can see it's out of stock. Well, consider excluding all pages that have content that says out of stock. Again, review, does your product pages say out of stock? Because then you can't do that. So yeah, on the URL front, proactive, like about us, shipping, the blog, and stuff like that. Probably want to exclude it. So when you're reviewing search terms here, then I look at it like this. What actions do I want to do based on this? So Bear Bells is a brand that should definitely be in our own search campaigns. We'll add those. The fitness equipment one, we already have that keyword in our campaigns. So let's just exclude that from here because it's a duplicate. The cardio training, it's for a blog. We don't want it running in this dynamic search ads. We want different search ads, dynamic search ads. So we're going to exclude the URL completely because we don't want it in here. It's not a keyword thing, it's a URL thing. Then we'll go back to the two others. And then we had the last one, we also have an excluded duplicate. I get the question a lot. Should we go in and exclude all the keywords that we have in our regular search ads campaigns in our dynamic search ads? So all the keywords you've normally added in your regular campaigns, should you proactively go in and set them as negatives in your DSA? Never. And the reason why is because you don't know if they get searches or not. If you're running into an issue where there is duplicates, so in this case, we have fitness equipment. Fitness equipment we have as keyword in our regular campaigns, and I want to exclude it from DSA. But otherwise, I don't want to do it. You can go and do this once a month, once a quarter, whatever, when there is an issue. Just know that there's a reason why it's bidding higher and being shown in dynamic search ads versus your own campaign. That's just something you need to look at. Are your ads good enough? Are your ads better? Sometimes I've just taken the exact same ad copy that's in the DSA and try to show this and try to use it in our normal search ads campaigns if I'm having a big issue with duplicates in DSA, because it might just be because that converts better. So just know that. Yeah, new keywords. One thing I want to talk about before you're adding new keywords from dynamic search ads. Why is it we launched dynamic search ads? Dynamic search ads is amazing for deep linking. So like we talked about before, it uses the headline from the title tag on the page. So it can usually show very specific keywords. So in this case, let's go down to darn tough sock sizing. It's linking to darn tough men's size chart. Awesome. That's pretty good. That's pretty cool. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. However, we don't want the search term for GoPros, which is the branded term in this case, to go to darn tough socks. That doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be sent there. That's wrong. And that's where DSA works really good when you're sending to product pages or there's very specific searches on category or brand plus category pages that match up, and you get that really high relevance from the search term to the ad to the landing page. That's very hard to replicate at scale. So that's why when I look at this, darn tough sock sizing or smart wool 150 boxers, I'm most likely not gonna add those as keywords. Maybe if they have enough searches, I will, but I can tell you here they didn't in this case. So I wouldn't add them. There's no need for me to spend that much time across hundreds of brands doing that. But for the homepage, not so much. It's typically not the best headline. It's typically not the best landing page that you can do, and you can't customize the ads for promotions. So that's one of the reasons why, like the homepage, category pages, and some other things, I don't want them to be sent there. Should you ever write different copy for dynamic search ads? So should you create different ad groups for dynamic search ads so you can write better descriptions? Typically, I would never do it. We've seen a couple of cases where, so we have a big client that sells books and they sell toys. Yeah, we can split them up. Also, there's a different free shipping limit on the two and some different things. So we can actually write a pretty meaningful difference on the two. In those cases, we'll split them up into, actually in this case, split them completely different campaigns so we can write different descriptions for them. After 12 months, when you've done all of these things, when you've rewritten the ad copy, the landing pages, the keywords, when you've worked on the assets and the tweaks and dynamic search ads, what you want to do then is you want to focus on ad copy, landing pages, and bidding. So you're starting your campaigns. The ad copy, you want to update for seasonality, better ad assets, you want the promotions to make sure that it's updated across the board. For landing pages, especially for direct to consumer, it's a never-ending optimization. Should never stop working on landing pages. And then bidding is that constant push-pull lever. Release target ROAS a little bit, which meaning that you are lowering the ROAS target for a little bit when you want to bring in more traffic, when you want to see if some of the things that used to not convert, and that smart bidding, like we talked about today, it lowers bids on specific devices, on specific search terms that don't perform. By lowering the ROAS target, you give it some room to go out and try to bid for these again and see, hey, are they performing now? Yes, no. If they are, then you get more revenue. So that constant push-pull, that constant seasonality bid adjustment, whenever you have promotions, whenever you need to push a little bit harder, whenever you need to hold back a little bit, and you know it's coming, but smart bidding doesn't know yet. All like constant push and pull. These are the three things you should be focusing on. You can't, at one point in time, you can't find more keywords. So ad copy, landing pages, and bidding. Boom, 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 in a constant routine and a constant frequency. You just do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So again, summarized, these are the lists. I have a pretty cool Notion setup for this as well. If anybody wants it, you get a little prize for watching this and watching to this point. Just send me an email, andrew@savvyrevenue.com, and I'll shoot back the Notion overview where you can copy that and you can just put in whenever you want to do your monthly, your quarterly, your weekly, your bi-weekly setup of when you should do all these different routine tasks. It includes some shopping things as well. So bonus for you, andrew@savvyrevenue.com if you watch this part. The last thing I want to talk about is something that's near and dear to my heart, platform versus off-platform optimizations. So we've talked, that's not it. There we go. So we've talked a lot about these things with smart bidding taking over our job. And I was a king for 10 years. Back in 2010, when I started out, we would remove display from search because display was already part of search campaigns. And we would pretty much remove 25 to 50% of the spend that went to display ads that we would get no revenue from and would immediately improve performance. Immediately. In 2012, we would set up SCAGs because SCAGs would allow us to, like these single keyword ad groups, it would allow us this like super control. Keyword or search term, keyword, ad, landing page. Beautiful. Perfect matchup all the way through, perfect quality scores, and we could bid very specifically for all of them. Great results. Then in 2016, we would do device-specific campaigns. So we'll have a campaign for mobile and a campaign for computers or desktops. So we could bid more specifically for mobile that was ever increasing at that point in time. Because the bid adjustments wouldn't really work that well. It wasn't as good. Then in 2018, we all more or less mastered like advanced bidding with rules or scripts or with third-party software that came in and just bulldozed the thing, and it worked beautifully. Then 2020 was really like 2018. You might also say we did this, but in 2020, keyword split shopping. So you would bid because you can't bid for search terms in shopping when you're doing manual bidding. What we would do is we'd create different campaigns, and we would have a campaign just with branded terms or high converting terms, and another campaign with lower converting terms. And then we'd just set a higher bid for the high converting and a lower bid for the lower converting, and we would instantly create better results. All of that is gone. We don't do any of these things anymore. And I get asked still from our old clients, why are we not doing this? We're not doing this. Why are we not doing this? And I say, because it doesn't fucking work anymore. There's no need to. I can't keep up with it. So the future is 50-50. This is what I call off-platform optimization. And the same goes for Facebook, same goes for Google, YouTube, wherever you're doing anything. These are the things you should be spending half your time on. And my Google Assistant just went off. You want to expand your product selection. You want to create custom landing pages. You want to be more retention focused. You want to improve the data. All these things will make your campaigns better. So when we look at it and we look at all the things that have gone away from what you're supposed to be doing and what we used to do, open up all this. It didn't open up your ability to put in a Performance Max campaign and then just don't touch it again. And if you do that, then you should be able to do all of these things. Expanding product selection so that you can get a broader foothold. You can understand attribution so you know, okay, what's the difference between like bidding for branded and bidding for non-branded? How much should our ROAS be for non-branded? When should we not bid for branded at all? How should we perform CRO on our website? How can we do upsells so we increase our average order value? So again, when we increase our average order value, our ROAS goes up. What happens when our ROAS goes up? We can bid higher, and that's a competitive advantage. There's no competitive advantage on bidding anymore because I bid just as good as the next guy because we're all using smart bidding. So where everybody who used to be technically very savvy, I have a dog down there I can see, everybody used to be technically very savvy, people are starting to creep up. So what you have to do, you have to take all of these and run away again, because then you're feeding better data into the algorithm. Then you're creating custom landing pages. You're doing CRO. You're using your promotions better. You're doing better pricing because you do profit tracking, etc. And then you're running away from everybody again. That's what we're doing, at least. This is where you want to be. This is what you want to work on, because this stuff is not that much, not compared to what we used to do. So yeah, now it's time for a Q&A. Before we do that, I just want to say we do paid search management and shop management for B2C stores across Europe. Do a little bit in the States as well, but our focus is really on saying, okay, how can we pair up with you? So we focus on all the things from a PPC perspective to be perfect. And then we help you do these things. We advise you how can we do lifetime value, how can we do CRO, how can we do more data, how can we do more reviews, and how can we just use your promotions better. Is it a 1 day? Is it a 3 days? Is it a 7 days? Is it a 2 week? How often should we do them? How much do we actually get out of doing them when it comes from a margin standpoint, et cetera, et cetera? We can help you take all these learnings and apply them to Google Ads. So let us know if you have any questions. You'll talk to me directly. So if you want to reach out, if you're interested, just reach out and we can do a quick little analysis of what your account looks like today and how it compares to what we typically would do. So yeah, from a Q&A standpoint, let's get started. There we go. How would you tackle search campaigns for brand search, i.e. Patagonia, using broad match? I would not. So remember what we talked about when we talked about broad match. Broad match is intended to take a keyword like Nike running shoes and make sure you're also showing for Nike shoes, Nike marathon running shoes, Nike marathon, and best marathon shoes, etc. That's what it's supposed to be doing. When you're bidding for a brand term like Patagonia or your own brand term, you don't want to do that. You don't want Patagonia to turn into Outdoor Voices or Lululemon or even outdoor clothing. You don't want that to happen. So when you're having, you don't want that. So you don't want to use broad match. for your branded campaigns. And my dog is going crazy. One second. Yeah, I have wind. I can't close my door. So you don't want to do that. There's also another aspect, which is the bidding aspect. So for your branded term, you want to bid as low as humanly possible for just that one term and get as much revenue as you can. Like it's a pain in the ass, but you have to be there in most cases. For your non-branded terms, you want to get the highest impression share with the highest revenue within your ROAS target. And you want to start measuring, okay, if I'm at an 80% impression share and I'm at my ROAS target, what happens if it gets a 95% impression share by lowering the ROAS to 350? How much more incremental revenue will I get in? And that incremental revenue isn't there for your branded term. Like it doesn't work like that. So you need to treat them completely different. So no broad match, and for goodness sake, no smart bidding on your brand term. Yeah, don't do that. So quality scores, are they important and do they affect performance? Yes, they're important. Yes, they affect performance. If you build an overall good account structure where you make sure that the keyword matches the ad, which matches the landing page, you're typically pretty good. Only if you have a pretty low quality score should you spend any time on it, specifically for optimizing for it. Could you elaborate on your findings on broad match for responsive search ads? So this is probably from one of the articles we've done where we talk about why it is that we're using broad match more and more and more today. And the reason is that with the way that the assets are algorithmically being measured for what is the highest performing asset and thereby getting the most impressions, then I'm thinking this is a data play. The more data we give responsive search ads to figure out what ad assets or headlines and descriptions perform the best in terms of CTR, conversion rate, ROAS, etc., then it will just do better. So what we're trying to do is where we used to rely a lot on dynamic search ads for the like width and expanding our reach, then we've tried to say, okay, let's try to move more of that traffic into our regular search ad setup so that we give responsive search ads more data, which means that using broad match, using more keywords in the same ad groups means we're aggregating more data on fewer responsive search ads. And this can be done very complex, but like I said, broad match and more keywords in the same ad groups when you're not changing the headlines based on, or when you're not changing the ad based for a specific keyword, then you get more data on the responsive search ad. Is target CPA the best bidding strategy for search ads? If that's a question, well, smart bidding is the best bidding strategy, then yes. Target CPA is not, in my opinion. It depends. Like for some with low volume, it seems the target CPA works better than target ROAS just because there's less volatility, so it's more stable. But overall, you want to take into account if there's a higher AOV for one category over another category, and you can't do that with target CPA. And then there's another one. I like this one. Conversation around frequency of tasks and optimizations. So the question here I want to dig into is actually not that, but below that is best practices for making optimization and understanding when tinkering too often becomes a problem. And this is where I believe it's a huge thing that people spend too much time on two things. One is tinkering. So going in and changing the ROAS target from 500 to 510 to 520 back to 490 doesn't make an impact whatsoever, unless you're a huge volume. But again, changing that every other day, Google, like smart bidding, just never gets a chance to bid on it. Smart bidding is not like predictive per se. It can't like predict what happens. So what smart bidding does, and you'll see it in your account, is that if you lower the ROAS target, it might actually start like hitting below that target because it changed a bit from $2 to $2.50, and that turned that keyword it decreased the ROAS much more than it actually thought. And then it's going to adjust it. It's going to go back to 225 for a bit. Now it's hitting the ROAS target. Remind you of anything? That's what we used to do manually. Smart bidding does manual changes. Like it just calculates much faster than we do and brings it more factors in So it does it better than we do, but essentially it is still a reactive model. It reacts to the data it gets. So the more you tinker, and the more you, and again, when I also say tinker, I mean like a 10% point change doesn't make an impact. If you want to lower your ROAS target, you want to give it some power, give it like, go from 500 to 400, go from 500 to 350, give it a push, let it run for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then start slowly moving it back, vice versa. Make some bigger changes. And then for tinkering, I also hear that like Monday we do keywords, Tuesday we do a little bit more keywords, Wednesday we do a little more keywords, then we do some ads, and I don't like it. I like a specific routine. Monday I do this, Tuesday I do this, once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month. So I have a good consistency on when I do what. Branded search inside Performance Max, good or bad? My personal opinion, and I might be biased because we work with a lot of like mid to large e-commerce stores where they have a lot of branded terms, and like I said in the beginning, we want to bid completely differently for those branded terms. Let's say one client. We can, like, if we bid 10 cents, we pay 10 cents per click. If they bid $1, they're paying approximately 50 cents or 80 cents per click. We have seen their branded, just the search campaign for branded terms go from spending $1,500 a month to $15,000 a month. And that's what we've seen when they just make these changes in CPCs. Don't get more clicks. Exactly the same clicks. We just pay a ton more because there's one competitor on there as well. So we just want to don't really care. We don't need to pay that much. This again, quality score, ad rank. That's how that works. And it's the same thing inside Performance Max. If you're telling Performance Max, we want to hit a 400% ROAS, and your branded term hits 1,000, you risk that it's gonna increase the bid for your branded term until it gets closer to here. I don't like that. For me, if I have an impression share of 70% on my non-branded, I want to go. What happens if I go to 350, 350% ROAS instead of 400? How much more impression share do I get? How much more incremental non-branded revenue do I get out of that? I really don't care about my branded revenue. I'm just there to play defense. I don't look at it from a performance standpoint. I don't look at it at all from Google Ads perspective. For my sake, it'd be on a completely different account. I couldn't care less. Now, there is somebody who's saying that adding branded terms in Performance Max allows Google to better look at it. And there were some data points that were being said, like it had produced net number of new customers more than before, or when you didn't have branded search inside. And my answer to that, like, yes, of course, like branded search produces a bunch of new customers. That doesn't mean that they're produced by search, though. It's not necessarily a non-branded search that then went on the website and came back and searched for the branded term and then came in and then changed. It doesn't mean that we get more new customers. My whole issue with adding branded search inside Performance Max and inside shopping, inside any other activity that we do, is that we don't know how much how much we're actually spending on branded and how much we're spending on non-branded. And that's a big issue. I can't go to a client of ours and say spend more without them knowing exactly how much more revenue do they get in from like incremental that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. That's an issue. So reverse question, 15 tasks you should ignore. All the stuff I haven't talked about today you should probably ignore. Second one, how important do you consider account structure? So again, I think that you should definitely aggregate more data today than you've ever done before. Otherwise, I think your account structure is very much related to, like, again, how good are you at working on these things over time, but also, account structure. Now my brain is fried. Account structure is your strategy. Strategy is your account structure. So account structure is everything. But it also depends on how big your website is. So if you're direct to consumer selling a backpack, then you have a very simple account structure, and you can maybe break things out a ton more than if you're selling 8,000 different types of backpacks. Then you will have a lot fewer campaigns or you will have breaking it out in a lot less granularity. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this session. It's everything we have learned over optimizing paid search for the last couple of years, where we believe many have just completely forgotten how to optimize search. So remember, search can perform and should perform really well. It's just about working with landing pages, working with the ads, finding the right keywords, and then do bidding to get it to work where you need it to be. Don't just let shopping do all the work, because there is performance to be had through search. That's also why Performance Max in some cases has gone in and performed better, is because they've opened up, and then 10-20% extra comes in via dynamic search ads. It's not just because shopping does better or display, like it's not there yet. It's simply just you've taken shopping ads and combined it with dynamic search ads, and it works pretty well. But you can do that yourself too. You can expand on your search campaigns, especially for your most important keywords. So yeah, those were my 5 cents. I hope you enjoyed this. This went a little bit longer than I usually go, but I like this topic, and I think it's something that's completely misunderstood by many. So any questions, remember to put them. Any feedback, I would love to hear them. Did I talk too fast? Did I talk too low? Was the dog annoying? So just let me know and reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. Follow me, connect with me, send me a note, and I hope to chat with you soon. Thank you.